Hello, everyone, and welcome to our ASF Feature Spotlight. ASF is proud to announce the launch of our new analytics tool, which gives you easy access to important metrics and data at your club. My name is Missy King, and I am a product manager at ASF. I'm excited to share our new revenue analytics feature with you. ASF Revenue Analytics can be used to quickly gain insight into the revenue being generated by your club and quickly identify areas that may require additional attention. It will also provide transparency into any fees being charged and ultimately the money being deposited into your bank account. Now that you have a general understanding of what revenue analytics is, let's hop into our demo. All right, so now I'm sharing our new revenue analytics dashboard. To start off on this dashboard, you can see that there are a number of filters available for you. You can filter by club if you want to look at a specific location or all of your locations. You can also filter by card code if you want to look at specific card codes being used. You can also filter by specific revenue source. So maybe I want to look at just add-ons, only dues, POS transactions, so on and so forth. And then finally, in addition to kind of our month and year, which comes standard with all of our dashboards, you can also filter our revenue visuals to say which version of the revenue do you want to see. Changing this from net to gross will update your dashboards to reflect net across the board or gross revenue across the board, depending on which way you'd like to view them. So now let's go through the insides of every dashboard. So as you can see, we have two tabs here. So we have revenue and remittance. We can start with revenue. Our revenue tab starts with a top level view of what's going on at your club. So you can see things like gross revenue, any ASF processing fees that were deducted from your payments, any refunds that were issued throughout the month, any other fees, so things like hardware, software fees, pass-through fees, and then finally, any miscellaneous adjustments that occurred during the month. Ultimately, that will leave you at your net club revenue. So this will be the bottom line of what's really being brought into your club on a monthly basis. So that's kind of that top level view of what you're going to see at your club. If we move down the dashboard, you can then see that there is a few very, very powerful visuals that can help you engaging your performance and kind of where you're going this year and how you're doing compared to previous periods. So as you can see, we have our running gross revenue to date. What this allows me to do is if I hover over this at any point in the month, I can see how I'm doing this month. So in this case, in August, compared to the exact same period the prior month, and then also the prior year. So as you can see for this club, they are doing significantly better than the prior year, almost twice as much in revenue as they were seeing in 2020, which is really great. We also have a very similar visual here for the full year to date. So you can look at your gross revenue year to date and compare it to last year. So same thing, you can see that 2021 has been really great for this club. They're doing significantly better and once again, almost doubling their revenue over last year. I can also see for the previous day what revenue was brought into my club as well as the previous month. So if I want to compare just top level, what revenue I've brought in this month compared to last, those quick links are there for me. Now, if we keep moving down the dashboard, you can see a daily summary of your gross revenue. So you can see, every single day what payments are being collected at your club. If I hover over, I'm also able to see things like which location is bringing in the most revenue. So for those multi-location clubs that you really want to see who's bringing in the more revenue or who's collecting the most payments or potentially look at trends across locations, this is definitely going to be very powerful for you to do that. If we keep moving down, you can also see even more location granularity. So looking at the totality of the month per location. So as you can see for this example, our Philadelphia location is doing significantly better from a revenue perspective than Austin. Maybe Austin's a smaller club, so there could be reasons behind that, but it's important information to know so that we can guide our decisions going forward and maybe make some strong assumptions about what is happening that month if we're in the middle of the month. You can also see here the running gross revenue to date for those locations. So you can see kind of at how they accumulated revenue throughout the month on any given day. So this is also a super powerful tool at month end, but also throughout the month, so you can see kind of where you're headed for the end of the month. If we keep moving down, you're going to see a series of different tables and visuals that will give you different insights into different areas at your club. So to start off, we have our gross revenue by payment method. This is going to give me any insight I need to see into, which credit cards are being processed the most at my club. In this case, it looks like there's a lot of Visa transactions. And then if I'm processing a lot of EFT, I would also want to be able to see that. You can see that same information on the right-hand side in the table view for people that want to export it or do anything differently with that data. If I keep moving down the page, you'll also see our gross revenue by revenue source. So these are our ASF's revenue source categories, which are super helpful in aligning up with kind of where you're bringing in revenue and the different areas in the club. So things like POS versus dues versus add-ons. So this is going to give you a ton of insight into where you're bringing in that revenue. In this case, it looks like you can see that the majority, over 50% of our revenue, is coming from those dues processed, and add-ons are shortly behind. So once again, those really good insights into the revenue by revenue source, and then that table to support that same data. If I keep moving down the page, I'm also going to have very similar visuals for both by membership types. So if I want to see which membership types are selling the most at my club and bringing in the most revenue, or if I want to see what item types for POS revenue, I can also see that. So all the insights into what is happening at your club, what transactions are being processed, and ultimately what you're making from that transaction and what fees are being charged. And then finally, to add on to that, we also have our add-on revenue by type. So you can see, are you selling a lot of POS items for locker rentals or annual fees, or maybe you're selling a ton of PT? That will be easily visible here. So you can really see how your add-ons are attributing to your overall revenue at the club. And then finally, what you'll notice is consistent across all of our dashboards is we always will have a data table at the bottom, which can be exported and people can do a deeper analysis if they choose to do so, but always helpful to have to back up kind of all the data you're seeing at the club. All right, so now that you've seen the revenue dashboard, let's move on to the remittance so you can see all of the insight that will provide you on what money is ultimately being paid out to your club. All right, so now you can see our remittance dashboard. Our remittance dashboard is going to be very similar to the layout of our revenue dashboard, but with different insights to really help you gauge what money is ultimately getting deposited into your bank account for the club. You can see what was drafted in the prior period, but ultimately remit this period. So this would be payments that were collected, in this case, in July, but ultimately paid out into your bank account in August. I can also then see the net club revenue that was brought in August, anything that was collected directly by the club, any gift cards or prepaid that the club would have already received. And then finally, anything that was collected but has not yet been remit, and then anything that has truly been remit to the club. So this final number will ultimately match what has been paid out into your bank account for the month. So from here, if I scroll down the page, I will have a visual that shows me my remits by date. That's going to help me understand on any given day what was deposited into my bank account. If I have daily remits, this will show up daily. If I'm not on a daily schedule, I might see only 3 or 4 for the month. And then ultimately, this final block will also tell me what was the total remit to date for that period. If I keep moving down the page, I can also see that same location level breakdown that I saw in revenue. So I can see that running remit by location totals. So at any given point in the month, what's been paid out. In this case, it's the end of the month. So we'd want to say, how much money has been deposited for that specific location for the month. We also have our total remit by location. So that's going to give you that percentage breakdown of what the club is ultimately bringing home and making and getting deposited into their account, and really what revenue is coming in. If I keep moving down, this is where I'm going to see some of those direct comparisons between some existing ASF reports, but really the deep dive into what I'm being paid out for any given period of time. So as you can see, there is a remit on every single day and for each location. So for each line item, I can see what my ultimate remit amount was, but I can also see where that money came from. So was it a total of dues, add-ons, POS payments, and then what fees were deducted from that remit, as well as any additions and deductions that occurred. So this will give me that full insight into my remittance at my club and really help me understand, what is happening in every single remit, so I can trace that back to my revenue if I want to, or really just deep dive into it if I want to go any deeper. And finally, at the bottom of the page, we do have our remits by draft date. We've gotten a ton of feedback in the past from clubs that it's not always the most straightforward thing to see when you're getting paid out for, or when payments were drafted that you're ultimately getting paid out for. So we wanted to make sure that was super transparent. So as you can see on this visual, you can see that on August 2nd, there were payments included from the 31st of July, the 1st of August, and then also the 2nd. So that's going to be super helpful in just understanding, you know, when things are drafted, when can you kind of expect to see them in your bank account. And then we once again have that same table showing a little bit more detail, but really just giving you that exportable view that can help you report up in the club. And then as always, we still have that same table view that you can export and dig into as you want, and really deep dive any more if you need to. So that's it for our new dashboards. As you can see, our new revenue analytics dashboard provides an awesome overview of all the important financial transactions happening at your club, especially in a single view. So this is a lot of data that typically people would have had to go to many different reports to access. So this single view is going to be super powerful and really help you gain that transparency into what's happening and see the full picture in one view. Keep an eye out in the future for even more dashboards coming down the road, and we'll be sure to have some more feature spotlights when those come through. All right, thank you so much. Have a great day.